It felt like Antoine Griezmann to Barcelona would have been announced at any point during the 2017-18 season, and the same could be said for the 2018-19 season, but with every day that passes, the situation gets murkier and a little more toxic between the player and his current employer. Yes, still Atletico at this point. Hey there, how you doing? I'm Adrian from Rabona TV, and today, while I was reading about yet another twist in the Griezmann, Barcelona, Atletico love triangle, I felt inspired to do a whole video on Griezmann's never-ending multi-year transfer saga. In the summer of 2017, it seemed as though Griezmann would be heading to Manchester United for his next job, as the influence of Pogba, apparently one of his good friends, would have been enough to lure him to Manchester. That never transpired, however, and with Atletico being handed a transfer ban, he decided to stay with the club for the time being. Well, he continued on with Atletico, helping them to a 2018 Europa League title, but throughout that season, rumblings of a rumored move to FC Barcelona had begun to take shape once again, with some even saying that it was destined to happen, and that Coutinho hadn't been given the number 7 Barcelona shirt when he first signed, he wore 14 at first, because they were saving that shirt for Griezmann. Months came and went with Griezmann not committing to Atletico or anywhere else, really, and finally it was revealed that he would be collaborating with Gerard Piqué's production company Cosmos Studios to produce a documentary called La Disciplinary, or The Decision, which was basically a 30-minute documentary showing how torn Griezmann was between staying with Atletico or moving to Barcelona, on top of him riding horses, playing with his kid, stuff like that. On June 3rd, 2018, Griezmann filmed the segment of the documentary that pertained to whether he would stay with Atletico or not. Then, he left for the 2018 World Cup in Russia. About 2 weeks later, on June 14th, 2018, La Indecisión was released on Spanish TV channel Movistar Plus, and after showing shots of him around his house, considering the move, riding horses, of course, he finally announced that after winning the Europa League and having extended conversations with Diego Simeone and Diego Godin, he was convinced to stay with Atletico for another season, at least. Even though he didn't say for just one season. So he signed a new contract on June 18th, 2018, which extended his time at Atletico until 2023, in theory, of course, and included an interesting clause. From the point of signing the contract until June 30th, 2019, Griezmann's release clause would be 200 million euros, but from July 2019 on, it would drop down to 120 million euros. Still expensive, of course, but given the current climate of the transfer market, well, it's still expensive. But I mean, for a player of his quality, it's when he's not slumping, I should say, he's good value for that price tag. However, despite announcing his intentions to stay with Atletico, by the time 2019 had rolled around, the rumors of his move to Barcelona were back, and apparently for good reason. So according to Sport.es, at the beginning of May of 2019, Griezmann met with Atletico and told them that he intended on leaving the club that summer because Barcelona was going to pay his release clause. In fact, Sport.es also claims that Griezmann had another documentary planned, which to me just, reads of a guy who buys into his own celebrity a little too much. LeBron made his decision video, Griezmann made one, and he was going to make another. La Decisión dos. This time I'm leaving. Atletico informed him that he should make a video immediately telling the fans that he no longer wanted to play for Atletico, etc., etc., thus throwing the kibosh on his Decisión dos ideas. I was hoping for a sequel, maybe even a trilogy when he inevitably left Barcelona for Miami. More on that in a sec. So it was the worst kept secret that Griezmann would be leaving, with everyone almost 90% sure it would be for Barcelona. There was a bit there where it seemed like he could go to PSG because there were stories about how the Barcelona locker room said they don't want Griezmann, but that fizzled out pretty quickly, with numerous Tier 1 journalists stating that Griezmann would go to Barcelona as soon as July 1st, 2019 had passed. Why? Say it with me now, because that's when his release clause dropped to 120 million euros. Even Griezmann himself said in an interview with Télématin during the June international break of this year that he already knew where he would be playing next season. He also said that he knew he would be playing for Miami in the MLS in 7 years, but that's just a tidbit for you. Because the dude loves David Beckham maybe more than he loves being Uruguayan. But suddenly, a plot twist arrived on the scene on July 5th, 2019 in the form of a comunicado oficial from Atletico. Let's go through it because it was juicy. Alright, so, quote, Atlético Madrid wishes to express its strongest disapproval of the behavior of both parties, especially FC Barcelona, for prompting the player to break his contractual relationship with Atlético Madrid. On May 14th, Griezmann met with Miguel Ángel Gil, Diego Simeone, and Andrea Berta to tell them of his decision to leave Atletico at the end of the season. In the days that followed, Atletico learned that Barcelona and the player had reached an agreement in March, specifically in the days following the return match of our Champions League tie against Juventus, and that they had been negotiating the terms of the agreement since mid-February. Now, Atletico and Barcelona had met the day before Atletico released this comunicado oficial, which was a request from Barcelona in order to discuss the potential of paying his fee in installments instead of all at the same time. Atletico said hell no, because Barcelona had disrespected their club by going behind their backs and not notifying that they were talking to Griezmann, and disrespected the quote, protected period of player negotiations. On top of that, they said that they would not deal with Barcelona at all, and they demanded of Griezmann, his agent, who is his sister, Maud, and his lawyer, that he respect his contract with Atletico and show up to training on July 7th, 2019. Did he show up for training? He did not. So, Atletico are allegedly opening disciplinary proceedings against Griezmann and are looking to give him the harshest possible punishment, which would be a €200,000 fine. So, why don't Atletico like how things have transpired? Let's go over that. Let's see why they're so mad. Basically, what Atletico Madrid are trying to say is that given the fact that this deal was agreed upon back in March, that was done at a time when Griezmann was still worth €200 million. Now, apparently he hadn't signed an official pre-contract, but there was some sort of written agreement according to Julian Lorenz, with Atletico themselves, of course, stating that Barcelona and Griezmann had been working on the contract as far back as February, as I mentioned earlier. Barcelona should have notified Atletico and asked permission to speak with Griezmann in the first place. They didn't do it. Why? Because if they had said that, then they would have had to pay $200 million. So you can see why Atletico would be extremely angry with all of this. If negotiations would have taken place back in March, then they should have informed Atletico. But since they kept it secret and went behind the backs of Atletico, they laid down the groundwork for the deal and just needed the finalization of it once his price had fallen to $120 million. Remember, he didn't sign an official pre-contract, but according to Julian Lorenz, he signed a pre-agreement, which is apparently a breach of contract. Not only that, the fact that Barcelona were meeting with the player or his representatives and working on a contract while Atletico were playing important Champions League matches, do or die matches against Juventus, it makes sense as to why Atletico are angry and unwilling to work with Barcelona at all. Add to the fact that Griezmann started this charade between himself and Atletico and Barcelona a year ago, and they're right back to dealing with it once again. It's a lot of drama. Atletico's stance is admittedly a bit strange in some respects though, as they have already given up Griezmann's number 7 shirt to a new signing, João Felix, before Griezmann had officially left the club. And then they say that they won't negotiate with Barcelona at all. I guess they're basically saying just pay the release clause or f*** off. And you f*** off too, Griezmann, to put it nicely. Now, of course, Barcelona can just pay his release clause and he will be theirs, which is what they allegedly planned to do on Tuesday, July 8th, 2019. But did it happen? Future Adrian. Nope, still hasn't happened yet, as Tuesday has come and gone in Spain. Well, Tuesday evening at least. The talk of him paying his release clause, or his buyout clause as they are referred to in Spain, the talks of that have begun to heat up, with Barcelona allegedly wanting to have the deal wrapped up by the end of this week, as Ernesto Valverde has called for players who didn't play in Copa America or any other summer tournaments to return for preseason training on July 14th. Of course, he would get the money back after paying his own buyout clause. Barcelona would supply him with that. It's just in Spain, the player has to pay the buyout fee as opposed to it coming directly from the club that's purchasing him. So all things point to this transfer saga ending very soon. Barcelona provides some lengthy transfer sagas, man. I mean, there was Suarez, Fabregas, Coutinho, Griezmann. They're all long and drawn out, playing the long game. So I think that will do it. The next time I speak about Griezmann, it will likely be about him completing a move away from Atletico, or about the awkward situation he finds himself in as he's stuck amongst some legal trappings. Thanks for taking the time to watch this video. If you enjoyed it, then a like is always appreciated, and a subscription even more so. I'm Adrian, this is Rabona TV, and I'll see you next time for my review of La Indecisión 4, Griezmann decides to retire. Later.